The call that changed everything. Pine Ridge, with its maple-lined streets and historic brick buildings, presented a picture of small-town tranquility. But beneath that carefully maintained facade, tension simmered. No one understood this better than Sophia Wilson, a 35-year-old community organizer whose tireless work had earned her both respect and resentment throughout the county. On this particular Wednesday morning, Sophia checked her watch as she left the community center. 10:17 a.m. The meeting had run longer than expected, but she'd secured funding for after-school programs in the predominantly black East Side neighborhoods. Her dark brown eyes sparkled with satisfaction as she slid into her blue sedan, placing her leather portfolio on the passenger seat. Progress, she whispered to herself, a rare smile crossing her face. Slow but steady. What Sophia couldn't know was how quickly her world would shatter. In exactly 23 minutes, she would be face down on the pavement, tasting blood and asphalt. In 47 minutes, she would be handcuffed to a hospital bed, denied pain medication despite her broken wrist. And in 2 hours and 12 minutes, she would make a single phone call that would set in motion events that would expose decades of systematic abuse and forever change Pine Ridge. Sophia glanced in her rearview mirror, noticing the police cruiser trailing close behind. She checked her speedometer, exactly 25 miles per hour in a 25 zone. Her turn signal clicked rhythmically as she prepared to turn onto Oakwood Drive. The cruiser's lights suddenly flashed to life, painting the interior of her car in alternating blue and red. "You've got to be kidding me," Sophia muttered, pulling carefully to the curb. She followed the protocol she'd taught in countless community workshops, hands visible on the steering wheel, engine off, calm demeanor. Officer Reed approached, a stocky man whose badge gleamed in the midday sun. His partner, Officer Thompson, positioned himself on the passenger side, hand resting casually on his holstered weapon. "License and registration," Reed demanded without greeting, his tone clipped and cold. "May I ask why I'm being stopped, Officer Reed?" Sophia kept her voice steady, recognizing the officer from previous community meetings where he'd sat stone-faced and silent. Reed's jaw tightened. "I said license and registration, ma'am." "Of course." Sophia reached slowly for her purse. "I'm just reaching for my wallet now." "Step out of the vehicle," Thompson suddenly commanded from the passenger window. "Excuse me?" Sophia turned, confusion evident on her face. "I haven't done anything wrong. We received reports of a vehicle matching this description involved in drug activity," Reed stated flatly. "Step out now." Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. "That's impossible. I've been in a community funding meeting all morning. You can call Director Sanders at City Hall to confirm." Reed's hand moved to his belt. "Last warning. Exit the vehicle." "I'm complying," Sophia said, unbuckling her seatbelt. "But I want to state clearly that I do not consent to any searches. I've done nothing wrong." As she stepped onto the pavement, the cool autumn air did nothing to calm the heat rising in her chest. Thompson circled behind her while Reed towered inches from her face. "Spread your legs, hands against the car," Reed ordered. "This is unnecessary," Sophia stated firmly. "I know my rights, Officer Reed." "Oh, we've got another lawyer here, Thompson," Reed sneered. "Thinks she knows her rights." A small crowd began to gather across the street. Sophia recognized Mrs. Patel from the bakery, phone already raised, recording. "I said spread your legs." Reed barked, suddenly kicking at Sophia's ankles, forcing her stance wider. "That hurts." Sophia gasped, her palms pressed against the hot metal of her car. "There's no need for." "Shut up," Thompson interrupted, roughly patting down her sides. "Got any weapons or drugs we should know about?" "No, of course not," Sophia replied, maintaining her composure despite her racing heart. "This is completely unnecessary." Reed twisted her arm behind her back without warning. "What did you just say to me?" "I said this is unnecessary," Sophia repeated, pain shooting through her shoulder. "You're hurting me. Stop resisting." Thompson shouted, loud enough for the growing audience across the street to hear. "I'm not resisting." Sophia protested. Reed yanked harder on her arm. "On your knees." "What?" Why? Sophia questioned, confusion and fear evident in her voice. The next moment happened with terrifying speed. Reed swept Sophia's legs from beneath her. She fell forward, unable to break her fall with her restrained arms. Her cheek and forehead slammed against the pavement. The coppery taste of blood filled her mouth. "Stop," a voice called from across the street. A sharp knee pressed into Sophia's back, forcing the air from her lungs. She felt the cold metal of handcuffs bite into her wrists, tightened far beyond necessity. As Reed wrenched her to her feet, a sickening crack came from her left wrist. White-hot pain surged up her arm. "Please," Sophia gasped, tears streaming involuntarily down her bloodied face. "My wrist, I think it's broken." "Should have thought about that before you resisted," Thompson smirked, roughly shoving her toward the police cruiser. "I never resisted," Sophia stated firmly despite her pain, making eye contact with Mrs. Patel, whose phone remained steadily recording. "Everyone here saw what happened." Reed slammed her against the cruiser. "Anything else you say can and will be used against you." The fluorescent lights of Pine Ridge Memorial Hospital's emergency room buzzed overhead. Sophia sat handcuffed to the metal rail of a hospital bed, her left wrist swollen to twice its normal size. A nurse with sympathetic eyes had cleaned the blood from her face, revealing a deep gash across her cheekbone that would need stitches. "I need pain medication," Sophia stated calmly to Officer Thompson, who stood guard by the door, scrolling through his phone. "The doctor said my wrist is fractured in 2 places." Thompson didn't bother looking up. "Paperwork's not processed yet." "Department policy." "That's not a policy, and you know it," Sophia replied, wincing as she shifted position. "It's punitive and illegal." The curtain pulled back as Officer Reed entered with a clipboard. "Sophia Wilson, you're being charged with resisting arrest, assaulting a police officer, and possession of narcotics." "What?" Sophia's voice rose in disbelief. "That's completely fabricated. You planted something in my car, there were witnesses." Reed smirked. "Your word against ours. We found 20 grams of cocaine in your glove compartment. That's a felony charge." "This is blatant misconduct," Sophia stated, meeting his gaze. "I want my phone call. Now." "You'll get it when processing is complete," Reed replied dismissively. A doctor in blue scrubs appeared, chart in hand. "Ms. Wilson needs X-rays and pain management immediately. Her wrist requires surgical consultation." "Prisoner needs to be processed first," Reed countered. "Patient," the doctor corrected firmly. "And she needs medical attention now." Reed stepped closer to the doctor. "You new here, Doc?" "Because this isn't how we do things in Pine Ridge." The doctor hesitated, then looked at Sophia's swollen wrist. 10 minutes. Then I'm calling the chief of medicine." As the medical staff departed, Sophia closed her eyes briefly, centering herself despite the throbbing pain. When she opened them, her gaze was steel. "I want my phone call," she repeated. "And everything that happens from this moment forward, I will remember with perfect clarity when I testify." An hour later, Sophia stood beside a wall-mounted phone in the station's processing area, her wrist now in a temporary splint. Officer Reed observed from across the room, arms crossed. Sophia dialed with her uninjured hand, each number pressed with deliberate precision. She closed her eyes as the phone rang, once, twice. "Wilson," answered a deep, measured voice. "Marcus, it's me," Sophia spoke clearly, knowing her words were being monitored. "I'm at Pine Ridge Police Station. Officers Reed and Thompson arrested me on Oakwood Drive. They planted drugs in my car, broke my wrist, and denied me medical treatment. They're fabricating charges." There was a brief silence on the line. When Marcus spoke again, his voice remained calm, but Sophia recognized the controlled fury beneath his words. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" "Cut on my face. I need surgery for my wrist." "Understood," Marcus replied, his tone shifting to one Sophia had heard only twice before, the voice he used when switching to operational mode. "Love you. This ends today." The line went dead. Sophia placed the receiver back on the hook, her expression unreadable. Calling your husband to cry? Reed mocked from across the room. Navy boy can't help you now. Sophia turned to him, a flicker of something, not fear, but certainty, crossing her face. You have no idea what you've just started. Marcus Wilson stood motionless in his home office for exactly 3 seconds after hanging up the phone. His training had taught him that those initial moments after receiving critical information were crucial. Act too quickly from emotion, make mistakes, hesitate too long, lose valuable time. That he opened his laptop with one hand while reaching for a secure phone with the other. 22 years as a Navy SEAL had given him not just tactical skills but a network that extended into every corridor of power. He hadn't called on those connections since retiring 3 years ago. Today, those debts would be collected. Diane, Marcus spoke calmly when his first call connected. Marcus Wilson. Yes, it's been a while. I'm activating Protocol 7. Sophia's been detained at Pine Ridge Station, Officers Reed and Thompson. Fabricated charges, physical assault, broken wrist, denied medical care. I need your team at the station in 30 minutes. Diane Chen, the most formidable civil rights attorney in 3 states, didn't waste time with questions. On it. I'll bring Patterson for the criminal defense angle. We'll need evidence. Check with businesses on Oakwood Drive for security footage, Marcus instructed. And there was a witness recording, likely already on social media. Have your digital team find it. His second call went to Commander Hayes at the governor's office, a man whose life Marcus had saved in Kandahar. His third call was to FBI agent Rosario, who specialized in police corruption cases. While making these calls, Marcus methodically assembled what he needed from his safe: Sophia's medical records, documentation of her community work, and evidence they'd been collecting for months about Pine Ridge Police Department's pattern of racial profiling. Jackson, Marcus spoke into his fourth call. Need transportation and surveillance. Pine Ridge Police Station. 20 minutes. By the time Marcus walked out his front door 12 minutes after receiving Sophia's call, 3 cars were already pulling up to his house, a security detail of former specialists who'd served under him, men and women who understood exactly what was at stake. Sir, nodded Taylor, his former communications specialist, handing him a secure tablet. Live feed from Pine Ridge Station's external cameras. Internal access pending. Marcus reviewed the screen, his expression betraying nothing. Let's move. Captain Laura Mercer stared at her computer screen, her face tightening as she reviewed the body camera footage for the 3rd time. 22 years on the force, and scenes like this still made her stomach turn. The footage clearly showed Officer Reed striking Sophia Wilson without provocation, contradicting every line of the official report filed just hours earlier. This is a disaster, she muttered, rubbing her temples. A knock on her office door preceded the entrance of Internal Affairs Investigator Santos. Captain, there's something else you need to see. Santos placed a tablet on her desk. Mrs. Patel's video from across the street has over 200,000 views already. And we've received security footage from the bakery showing the entire incident from another angle. Damn it, Captain Mercer whispered. And the substance found in Wilson's car? Lab results just came back rushed. It's powdered sugar. The package has only Officer Thompson's fingerprints, none belonging to Wilson. The captain's phone rang. Yes? I see. Send them in. She turned to Santos. The FBI is here. And apparently, Diane Chen from the National Civil Liberties Union is in the lobby with a court order demanding Wilson's immediate release. That was fast, Santos remarked. Her husband, Captain Mercer replied grimly. Marcus Wilson. Former Navy SEAL, specialized in tactical response and intelligence. I served with him briefly overseas. He's not someone you want as an enemy. The door opened again without a knock. FBI agent Rosario entered, flanked by 2 junior agents. Captain Mercer, Rosario nodded curtly. We're initiating a federal investigation into civil rights violations by Officers Reed and Thompson. We'll need access to all personnel files, Bodycam archives for both officers going back 3 years, and all civilian complaints filed against them. "We'll cooperate fully," Captain Mercer assured, standing to her full height. "But you should know we've already begun our own internal investigation. The evidence suggests serious misconduct." "Evidence suggests?" A new voice entered the conversation as Marcus Wilson stepped into the doorway, his presence filling the room. "Your officers assaulted my wife, broke her wrist, planted evidence, denied her medical care, and filed false reports." His voice remained steady, but his eyes were cold. "What the evidence shows is criminal activity under color of authority." By nightfall, the plaza outside Pine Ridge City Hall overflowed with protesters. Hundreds of citizens, black, white, Asian, Latino, stood shoulder to shoulder, illuminated by the glow of countless phone flashlights and hastily made signs. "Justice for Sophia Wilson," read the banners hanging from lampposts. Pastor Green's powerful voice carried across the crowd without need of amplification. "Today, we witnessed what happens when power goes unchecked. When those sworn to protect instead become persecutors." The crowd responded with thunderous agreement. News vans lined the perimeter, their satellite dishes reaching skyward. Mrs. Patel stood near the front, her bakery closed early as she'd personally distributed water bottles to protesters. "Sophia Wilson has spent years fighting for our children's futures," called Councilwoman Jackson from the makeshift platform. "Today, we fight for her. This isn't just about one incident, it's about a pattern that ends now." Marcus moved through the edges of the gathering, coordinating with community leaders. His phone buzzed constantly with updates from his team positioned strategically throughout the city. The hashtag Justice for Sophia was trending nationally, with Mrs. Patel's video surpassing 1 million views. "Mr. Wilson," a reporter thrust a microphone toward him. "What do you hope comes from tonight's protest?" Marcus faced the camera directly. "This isn't a protest. This is a community standing up for justice, transparency, and accountability. What we want is simple: the truth." FBI agent Rosario spread dozens of files across the conference table in City Hall. Mayor Jenkins, visibly shaken, reviewed the documents with Captain Mercer and District Attorney Powell. Marcus stood by the window, arms crossed, while Diane Chen methodically took notes. "This goes far beyond two rogue officers," Rosario explained, tapping a chart displaying arrest statistics. "The data shows systematic targeting of black residents in Pine Ridge over the past 5 years. Arrests of black citizens are 400% higher than other demographics, despite comprising only 22% of your population. And the complaints," Captain Mercer added, her voice hollow. 73 formal complaints against Reed and Thompson alone. All dismissed without investigation." Mayor Jenkins slumped in his chair. "How did we miss this?" "You didn't miss it," Marcus stated flatly. "Sophia brought these exact statistics to the city council meeting last year. The transcript shows you personally dismissed her concerns as lacking context." Jenkins couldn't meet Marcus's gaze. District Attorney Powell shifted through personnel files. "There's more. Reed and Thompson were transferred here after similar incidents in Westbrook County. Their previous captain wrote warnings about their conduct that were apparently ignored during hiring." "Specifically ignored," Diane clarified. "We've located emails where former Chief Richards instructed HR to omit those warnings from their review packets." Agent Rosario placed a USB drive on the table. "And here's the final piece. Our tech team recovered deleted body camera footage from the department server. 37 separate incidents showing excessive force against minority residents. 8 involving Reed and Thompson. This was deliberate," Marcus stated, his controlled voice carrying quiet authority. "A culture of cover-ups and retaliation." Marcus pulled up Mrs. Patel's video on the conference room screen. "The reason my wife was targeted today wasn't random. This morning, she secured funding for programs that would have brought federal oversight to your police department through community engagement requirements." The revelation hit like a thunderclap. The truth, ugly and undeniable, lay exposed across the table. 2 weeks later, the Pine Ridge courthouse steps became the stage for justice. U.S. Attorney Elena Rodriguez stood before a forest of microphones, her voice carrying across the assembled crowd and to millions watching the live stream. "Today, I announce federal charges against former officers James Reed and Michael Thompson for civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and filing false reports, Rodriguez declared. Additionally, 3 supervisors within the department face conspiracy charges for their roles in concealing misconduct. Camera shutters clicked rapidly as Sophia stood beside Marcus, her wrist still in a cast but her posture unbowed. Behind them gathered a coalition of supporters, community members, activists, and families of previous victims. The investigation has revealed a pattern of discriminatory policing that cannot and will not be tolerated, Rodriguez continued. The Department of Justice will implement immediate oversight of the Pine Ridge Police Department, including mandatory body cameras with civilian review access, anti-bias training, and comprehensive procedural reforms. Captain Mercer, newly appointed as interim police chief, stepped forward. As a department, we failed our community. The road to rebuilding trust will be long, but necessary. Effective immediately, we are establishing a civilian oversight board with subpoena power, co-chaired by community leaders including Sophia Wilson. Governor Stevens approached the podium next. Today, I'm signing Executive Order 127, creating a statewide task force to review policing practices in all counties. Ms. Wilson's experience has exposed weaknesses in our system that must be addressed across our state. When Sophia finally spoke, her voice was clear and steady. What happened to me was not unique. It was simply recorded. Today isn't about punishment, but accountability. Real justice isn't just about consequences for past wrongs, it's about building systems that prevent future injustice. I'm grateful for this outcome, but my work, our work, continues. As the officials departed, Marcus gently squeezed Sophia's hand. You did this, he whispered. We did this, she corrected, looking around at the community that had rallied to expose the truth. All of us. 6 months later, Pine Ridge looked different. Not just in policy, but in spirit. The community center where Sophia had once fought for modest funding now operated with full financial support, its walls adorned with vibrant murals painted by local youth. The infamous street corner where she had been assaulted now featured a small garden with a plaque, "Where Truth Took Root." Inside the newly renovated police station, Captain Mercer, now permanent Chief Mercer, conducted a training session with the latest class of recruits. On the wall behind her hung framed photographs of community engagement events, officers reading to elementary students, and town hall meetings where citizens spoke freely about their concerns. Accountability isn't punishment, Chief Mercer emphasized to the attentive faces. It's the foundation of trust. And trust is what allows us to serve effectively. Across town at the courthouse, Sophia guided a group of high school students through a newly established police accountability project, teaching them to analyze arrest data and recognize patterns of bias. One person with evidence and courage can change a system, she told them, holding up her phone. But an entire community working together can transform it. The city that had once buried uncomfortable truths beneath bureaucracy and silence now ranked among the state's most transparent. Crime rates hadn't skyrocketed as some had feared, they'd actually decreased as community cooperation with police improved. That evening, as Sophia and Marcus walked home along streets that felt genuinely safer, they passed Mrs. Patel's bakery. The window display featured a newspaper clipping announcing Reed and Thompson's guilty verdicts alongside a sign that read, "Justice is sweet." Your lawyer called today, Marcus mentioned casually. The settlement proposal includes funding for police reform initiatives across 5 counties. Sophia nodded, looking toward the sunset painting Pine Ridge in golden light. It was never about the money. I know, Marcus replied, squeezing her hand gently. It was about changing the story, not just ours, but everyone's. As children played freely in the park ahead, their laughter echoing without fear, Sophia smiled. This was always the vision, not absence of conflict, but presence of justice. Not blind harmony, but eyes wide open to both truth and possibility. Pine Ridge still had work to do. But for the first time, they were doing it together.